Those who grew up in the 70s and 80s talk nostalgically about Saturday morning, a time when kids would willingly wake up early for that special one day of the week when they could park themselves in front of a television for hours and do nothing but watch cartoons. This wasn't heaven just to kids, though. Due to regulations in place by the Federal Communications Commission, this block of children's programming also gave companies their only opportunity to advertise to them. Then something happened that changed everything. Laissez-faire economics led to deregulation, allowing shows to run outside of this designated time, and in turn giving companies unprecedented opportunity to directly advertise to kids. Educational programming for children was gradually replaced by a new type of show, animated series, created by toy companies that based their shows on the products the toy companies were selling. And it was no longer restricted to Saturday. The messages these companies communicated to impressionable young minds had implications far beyond just what toys to put on a Christmas list. The negative consequences on children's health and well-being are still being felt today. It is critical to analyze and understand these effects to improve the environment for children for generations to come. How Ronald Reagan made He-Man the master of the universe. Deregulated communication in history and the key to understanding its effects today. Although televisions were invented in the late 1800s, they did not become a common fixture in American households until the 1940s. In the 1950s, as more television shows came into syndication, parents became concerned about the effects this new phenomenon had on their children. As a result, the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, was given the role to enforce regulations on the amount of advertising broadcasted during children's programming. In 1974, after prolonged negotiation, it was decided that the FCC would enforce regulations that limited advertising on any television program to 16 minutes an hour. There were several watchdog organizations that took it upon themselves to monitor such oversights. The most prominent was the Action for Children's Television, or ACT, a non-profit advocacy group founded in 1968 whose mission was to improve the quality of children's programming. Its first major action was to take on Boston's Romper Room.
I had a Superman day.
You had a Superman day? Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Romper Room was a franchised and syndicated American show of fun and games for preschoolers that promoted its own branded line of toys. The ACT threatened to bring the matter over to the FCC unless the program conformed to the regulations. The television station eventually conceded, ultimately leading to victory for the ACT. Throughout the 1970s, the activist group continued to fight for limited and even banned advertising on broadcasted content towards younger audiences.
Hot Wheels! Hot Wheels!
1969 introduced Hot Wheels, a new Saturday morning cartoon series on the ABC network about a car racing club. One of the sponsors of the show was Mattel Toys, a company that marketed a line of miniature toy cars also known as Hot Wheels. The FCC considered it a 30-minute commercial for the Hot Wheels toy line and threatened to pull the show if they did not count it as part of the limited advertising time. Eventually, the show was canceled. However, had this occurred 12 years later, things would have panned out very differently. Ronald W. Reagan became the 40th President of the United States on January 20, 1981. Reagan believed in the laissez-faire economic system, in which the government would not interfere with the free market. That May, Reagan appointed Mark S. Fowler, chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. Fowler believed that television and radio programming should be dictated by the marketplace and not constrained by regulations. That commercial broadcasters alone should decide what they shall broadcast, because they have the constitutional right of free speech. The FCC underwent a reversal of its previous guidelines, which drastically transformed the scope of children's programming. This lifting of restrictions led to an explosion of toy-based television shows.
By the power of Grayskull!
Behold, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Transformers, My Little Pony, Rainbow Bright, and so much more. Each had their own toys based on characters from the show. During this time, there was reportedly a 300% increase of licensed characters in cartoons. These shows were created in such a way that strategically marketed their products to younger audiences. A prime example of this can be seen in G.I. Joe, a real American hero, from 1983. Over the course of the series, the Hasbro toy company would release hundreds of action figures, vehicles, and playsets relating to the cartoon. Each episode of G.I. Joe focused on a new character whose toy figure would soon be available for purchase, and commercials would promote them. Additionally, the cartoon characters would be referred to by their full name or refer to their vehicles using a specific description. This way, a child viewing the show would know the exact name of the product to look for in the store or to put on their wish list. Toy companies weren't the only ones benefiting from deregulation. Companies like cereal and snack food manufacturers could now use licensed media characters and brand mascots in their animated commercials to sell their products. Examples include Tony the Tiger for Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, Trix for General Mills Trix cereal, and the Keebler Elves for Keebler's cookies. According to Obesity Reviews, an official journal of the International Association for the Study of Obesity, children develop personal bonds with these brand mascots and licensed characters, and their diets are influenced by this perceived relationship. Advertisers use these marketing strategies to attract younger audiences to their products, many of which contain unhealthy amounts of fat, added sugars, and salts. Advertisers soon recognized the power of marketing directly to young children. The American Academy of Pediatrics published an article indicating young children have trouble differentiating between entertainment and advertisement, stating that children are uniquely vulnerable to the persuasive effects of advertising because of immature critical thinking skills and impulse inhibition. After seeing something on the big screen, a child could very well believe a product or food being promoted will bring them as much joy as the advertisement promises. Additionally, exposure to advertisements promoting unhealthy junk food, as well as hours sitting in front of a screen watching a cartoon as opposed to engaging in physical activity, contributes to the increasing prevalence of obesity among younger populations. The key to understanding this deregulated advertising through history lies in the effects that pertain to modern-day society and children's health and well-being. Advertising specifically to younger audiences has emerged with the growing popularity of television, and the opportunities to advertise to children has grown astronomically over the years in the current digitized world. Today, $17 billion are spent on children's advertising, significantly greater than the $100 million spent in 1983. Obesity prevalence has more than doubled among children ages 2 to 11 and tripled among adolescents ages 12 to 19. There has been an alarming increase in type 2 diabetes among children. Advancements in technology have only accelerated this problem, giving children even more access to screens on digital devices with social media platforms like YouTube and Instagram. Children ages 8 to 12 years old use screens for entertainment for over 4 hours a day, and 13 to 18-year-olds spend over 7 hours a day on screens. Most recently, children in the United States see an estimated 40,000 commercials each year. With the growth of the internet and more children getting access to personal devices, there is more independence and unsupervised exposure to a variety of content, among them advertisements attempting to sell them a product. When the Federal Communications Commission underwent the changes that brought about deregulated children's programming, the general message conveyed was that it was acceptable for corporations to dictate the priorities of a nation's youth. This triggered a series of events that contributed to issues in children's health and well-being that still exist today. Currently, extreme commercialism directed at children has become ingrained in our culture and modern-day society. Without the deregulation mandates that were passed in the 1980s, television and broadcasted content may have looked very different. Learning and understanding how these societal norms originated is key to understanding how we can address these issues and bring about positive change.